Rob Kirby, Managing Director of and owner with wife Natalie, Kirby Marine. We're in our facility in Henderson in Western Australia at the moment. My perception was exactly the same as everyone else's when we first looked at this concept. I didn't think it was a concept that would take off. I didn't think there was any practical application for the boat, and just general boating. But I was proven wrong, and what has evolved is something that other boats just can't be. These boats cheat a little bit. They cheat because they carry reserve buoyancy above the waterline when they're up going. They're long and skinny boats. The second you come back to displacement, the collar's immersed in the water, and you've got then a very stable fishing platform. The other thing is that you're standing at water level. If anything, you might be an inch or two above waterline. The relationship between the deck of the boat and the water is a lot closer than any other boat. This is the first time I've put something in the water and taken it for a run, and found after I got used to it and my heart stopped palpitating that it exceeded, my expectations. It's addictive. It's completely addictive. I should at my age really be not looking at things to leap off, but I find myself just doing a little bit of a deviation when I see a bit of a lump standing up on the surface to go and leap off. Jumping boats is good fun, and I know that the guys that do it not only in Naiads, they do it in coup de craft, and you hear the passion of those guys talking about how they can do extraordinary things in a 6 metre. Well, these things, whether it's a 3.5 metre or a 13 metre, getting a boat airborne that's over 10 tonne is sort of just, it is an addictive thing to do. And it puts a smile on your dial when you come down and everyone goes, oh, there was no big bang and crash when you hit the water. The one thing that really drove it home for us was that we found that the boat's ability to be able to go across rough water, not at breakneck speeds, but we were travelling consistently 10 knots faster than most other people for the same sort of impacts and getting the same sort of quality of ride. The boat, because it has a collar, is very forgiving. If you get it wrong and come down hard, and often you'll find it'd be a wave that's just a little bit out of the ordinary that you'll hit. But the collar tends to stand the boat up. The other ability to be able to use it in interaction with other boats, and they're very social boats coming alongside, you're not having to worry about fenders. If you get it wrong and hit somebody, there's no paint off. It's very forgiving in that sense. All of a sudden, what we thought we needed in a boat changed. All of a sudden, to have that ability to be able to go out in anything, and it was almost a challenge to go out in bad weather. There's a formula we stick to. The formula is that generally the dead rise doesn't change. 23 at the back, 22 in a jet boat. Turning the boats seem to bank alarmingly, but you've got to understand there's a big buoyant collar there that stops it from going over too far. And that's why we can use very aggressive dead rises and plate angles, full flotation through the boat. The hull is filled with foam, block foam from bow to stern, and the only other thing that isn't filled is where the fuel tank sits. They go from displacement to planing relatively easy. The handling, it's very similar to a jet ski. You can throw the boats and be aggressive. Regardless of size, they are very nimble boats, very responsive to the helm. We've certainly looked at putting things in there that made it, the ride a lot more comfortable. Shock mitigating seats I'm a big fan of now. We tend to use a lot of the Allman seats. Look, they improve any boat, and they're certainly something that is standard fitment, and I couldn't do without now, because it gives me that ability to drive the boat like I stole it, and I think anyone should be able to drive their boats like they stole them. We have our own methodology on how these boats go together. By that, we're very critical about what we see as a finished product before it's painted. Having the boat go together nicely so that it doesn't look like somebody's beaten it together. Most of the tradesmen have a lot of input into the way that happens. We have our own in-house drafting and draftsman. He's come from the shop floor, so he understands how a boat should go together. They're immensely strong. We've never had a failure below decks. Didn't matter how hard the boat was driven. We've had boats that have been blown up, rolled over, hit reefs at high speed, but we haven't ever had the hull punctured at any time. The boats really need to be stronger than the ones that they're rescuing. There isn't any limitations on the configuration, so we do vessels as a centre console, cuddy cab, mid cab walk-through. That sort of covers most of the food groups. Naiad, in conjunction with their builder in North America, had a request from Coast Guard USA that no longer wanted any air-inflated collars. So they developed, and it has evolved into a foam cord collar using almost the same system that we use with the airfill. The airfill is still going to be very much part of our business, but the general trend tends to be going to a foam cord collar. It's really a no-brainer. It's the way forward, and 90% of what we're doing now is a foam cord collar. Power options, they just don't make engines big enough. Anything bigger is always better. Yeah, these boats use horsepower extraordinarily well. Or certainly the Yamaha 425 XTO has been a great outcome. Love that engine and love everything that it brings to the table. The Suzuki 350 with a contra-rotating prop, that has set a new benchmark in terms of controllability using single engines. Customers, we've got a long history in commercialising ribs and really having a robust hull and a collar system that was fully serviceable in the field. We do a lot of boats for compliance agencies, those being police boats, fisheries patrol, marine safety and conservation and land management. But the recreational market represents a big part of what we do. The boat I'm sitting on now started its life as a commercial boat, but we decided to put that on a diet. Took about 700 kilos off it, put the biggest outboards we could find on it, and it just turned into an absolute ball. It was a scream. Rob Kirby, very unique and individual, and a favourite son of Tasmania, I think. He's almost the Steve Irwin of Tasmania, I think, on water. Robert's bought 13, I think, in total. I've almost lost count. It started 15 years ago in his first 12.5 metre. I think he currently has 11 of those. And the last boats that we did for him were a sea legs version of their biggest sea leg system, which is a System 100. And that was on a 30 passenger, 11.8 metre amphibious boat that he's going to operate in Wilson's Promontory. Robert's a very knowledgeable mariner. He works in really adverse conditions in Tasmania. He's had a number of boats, so he knows what he was looking for. So we discussed what his needs were. He did say he wanted to run around 40 passengers on a 12.5 metre, still stay within the coxswains, which is 11.99, and do it with outboard motors. And I thought, this is never going to work, But he's made a very successful business of that. All of Naiad's business into ecotourism has been driven by his reputation alone. My boat is a 675 centre console we call Special K. Special K, it's my drug, and Special K, Special Kirby, I guess. It's sort of like it ticks all the boxes as far as I'm concerned. If I could have my way, I'd have every one of each model, but I can't, so I've got to just pick one. That boat's specific to my own needs. We use it as a standalone boat and in conjunction with a lot of things we do over at Rottnest. And that is, interacting with a lot of other people. It's really nice to go and pull up alongside somebody, throw a rope and spend a bit of time with them and boat hop from bay to bay. These are expensive boats. I'll make no bones about that. They are custom in every detail. However, we can't keep up. There's people waiting for second-hand boats. There's people waiting for new boats. There's people. It's just become something that was an addiction, really. It's sort of, and it's very organic in its growth. By that I mean, I could put a boat out there, somebody will go for a ride and saying, oh gee, that's different, and then the more time they spend on it, it's become something that's a have to have. We have built boats for sheiks and sultans and billionaires, but I think that the people that really appreciate what we do are the people that have worked hard and have also been a part of the journey in putting something together that they've wanted and worked pretty hard for. People generally just don't buy one boat. It's a sort of a succession where they come back. And for any boat builder, knowing we have repeat business and people come back to entrust you with the building of the new boat means that they're pretty happy with what they've got.